This is an excellent way to do build-ups. So just to recap on how you do this build-up. So pretty much any hit, I could do this with the white noise equally, freeze the reverb, automate the dry wet so it comes up. And this works particularly well with white noise, which actually I'll demonstrate in a second. I'll swap it out so that just this moves the pitch up at the end. So I'm going to make sure that this up here is selected, which means that all the automations are going to stay as they are and not delete when I delete the sample. I'm going to delete the sample, find a new one and try putting it in. Okay, so we more or less got it. It's not quite, so I probably want it to rise up to here. What I'm now going to do is freeze this track. So we now have our frozen track. On the blank audio channel below, I am going to just copy out a section of this, and I'm going to paste it in. Then going to duplicate this. So this is more or less our held reverb on its own because we don't really want the noise hit itself. I'm going to unfreeze this track, going to copy across, well actually just going to move across the EQ. I have no spare one there, and delete that. And I'm going to move across the frequency shifter over here. I'm going to turn off this one and fingers crossed it should sound the same if not better. So yeah, that's more or less the kind of the freeze trick. You can also do this with the delay plugin in Ableton. So if we put a ping pong on this one, we can duplicate this again, delete out this one. Well, that's the freeze button down there. This works particularly well if you turn sync off and do repitch. So if we solo this, once again, we have the dry wet. So we want the wet coming after that, and feedback we're going to turn up, and we're going to put the freeze on after the hit's finished. And in this case, we're going to play with the time, and as I'll show you in other projects, this more or less makes a kind of dub delay effect, except we're going to use it more as a riser in this case rather than as a sort of background effect. So here I am back in Cubase. I have an audio channel here which has a little snippet from the toolroom tutorial we found on YouTube and stole earlier. So if we listen to that.
And everything.
So it just says claps and everything. I'm going to pitch it down by 5. Let's see what that sounds like.
And everything.
I'm going to put a reverb effect on it. I am going to automate the hold of the reverb. So as you guess, it just holds the reverb. In a similar way we just did in Ableton. So if I hit the W, which is right, and I press on the hold, and then I just should, in theory, press play. And then if I go back, and let's have a look, how's it done it? No, it hasn't. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll right-click here, and then this will pull it up. And I can do it here. So then what we get is basically this endless reverb, which I'm going to record onto a new audio channel. So I'll just hit record. turn this reverb off because that's enough of that. I'll cut out a section of this. So let's say here, and this works particularly well with full verses rather than just with little cuts. But in this example, I'm just using a little cut. So I could have this reverb tail building up. I'm going to automate the volume just like so. And so it would build up.
And everything.
It's like quite a classic effect that's used in pop. On the actual reverb channel, I'm going to cut the low end because the original is quite bassy because I pitched it down. So.
And everything.
We're also getting a little click. There's two ways of dealing with this. The first one is to try and move the loop along a little bit so it loops in a slightly better position. In Cubase, you can select the whole thing, hit Control and Alt, and then drag, and it will actually move all of the audio. So it hasn't quite dealt with it. So the other way of dealing with it is to introduce a very small little volume dip at both sides. So I'll just try that on this one and see if that does it. It hasn't quite. Let's try again.
And everything. And everything.
So that was a bit extreme, but you get the idea. So if you played with that, you could get a happy medium, so it's not dipping in volume too much, but it's still maintaining a solid signal.
And everything.